Hey everybody. So in this video, what I'd like to do is talk about the premiums and the EMR. And here on the screen, I have the final work I did on the final results table. So I've got the table averages here. I've got the figures, and then I've got my final priority area forecasted losses, excuse me, and requested investment. Then what I did, okay, if you guys remember, here's the equation for how we calculated the requested investment. I brought up my company-wide, my Site P and my Site M tables, and I entered them down here because what I'd like to see is basically, so for the priorities, you know, the stuff that's added up here, I took this stuff and divided it by the company-wide outliers removed, because that's pretty much what all these things are, and to show what is the percent. And, you know, we want to be conservative, and so we don't want it to be, you know, 100% of what the company is. But then again, if it's representing, you know, a lot of it, then it's like, yeah, we're doing the right thing. You know, we're putting the money in the right place. So company-wide, these 6 priorities, and again, this is very narrowed. We have it by site, class, code, cause. There are so many different combinations we could have gone after. So this is a very small, you know, sample of priorities that we could have. It ends up being about a third, yeah, you know, so around a third of the average number of claims the company can have. 44% of the annual average, 5-year average. For the outliers, we got 40% covered and about 38% of the costs here in just our priorities. So, you know, it's not a Pareto, but it's decent, right? And then what I did is I also did it by Site P and Site M. And I just, so for Site P, I used these 4. For M, I used these 2. And as you can see, you know, it kind of follows it. It's pretty close. Well, yeah, except like that's 50%. That kind of jumped up a little bit. And that, yeah, okay. So, but that's for the annual averages. For the forecasting, it's a little bit different. And I think we know that the figures changed quite a bit when we narrowed it down to site and we removed outliers. So for company-wide, we're at about 41% and at 70% of the cost. And that's up from, oh, I got to highlight these too, darken them. So that's up from 32 and 44. So our forecasting captured more of what's going on, and our lines were better too, if you recall. So this jumped from 33 to 42. This went from 30 to 40. We went from 38.5 to 80.6. So when we did our forecasting, it was trending up. That's what this means. It was trending up. But we ended up using the averages, so we went more conservative. So that's what the comparison is here. Between the forecasting and the annual averages, we were trending upward, but we went more conservative. We went with the lower numbers to estimate future losses, except for this one. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. This one here was the only one we used the forecast, and that was a Site M. All the rest, these were too low, but there we got about a 0.8. What's interesting is when we look at it here, both overall and for Site P, we'd use this number. And so we've got a higher number here, though I still went with outliers removed. So I didn't use the actual one. Did I? The forecasted loss included outliers removed. So I did use the higher one. Yeah, so 140. Yeah, I did use that one. Versus, why did I use 190 here? There's 190. Oh, it's 190. Okay, so it was pretty much the same. So that was a flat line. Okay, got it. Now I see what I did there. Just had to make sure. And because that's starred, I use it. So what that means is the forecasted line, it has more validity to it because we have a higher R-square value. That's what we've been doing the whole time. So therefore, we'd use it. Anything below 0.8, I wouldn't use it. I did use the 0.7949. I thought that was close enough. And so here are the, so for when we're asking for money, estimating losses and estimating money, this is the percent of this is our comparison. So for R6, we're asking for this much, which is about 31% from the perspective of the entire company, what we're expecting them to lose. So only, under a third. 23% for the site P, and almost 78% for the Madison. And that's because we used this forecast is higher. If we had used the average instead of 14,000, it would have been just like 3,400. But we feel pretty good about it because it's almost 0.8. We do have a couple outliers built into it as well. So it's interesting. Madison, the site M, we just have two priorities, two things, but it has got the same number of outliers, though not as much money as Poinet. So we're estimating these 6 in between the two places. It'll be about a little over $53,000 in losses. We're requesting $42,500 to investigate, find solutions, and we should be able to then provide them with a 25% return on that investment in the first year. And by the way, this ask does not include something that's about 10 times as much. So if we were to reduce just one of these, we would easily, that alone would pay it back. And these are conservative. Again, they're much lower overall than what it really could be. So this number compared to this number, it's about, again, 10% of it, somewhere around there. Also noting that we're really considering only about a third. If you break it down by site, and we didn't really do that here, we're doing company-wide ask. Yeah, we're pretty close to, as far as estimated losses with outliers removed for Madison, it was a low estimate, and we're asking for, something closer to it, but it's a smaller number. So the difference is, 21,000 versus what is this, 16,000. We're talking lower amounts versus these 100,000 ones. That's why it's so much higher. So that's going to be our pitch to management. Okay, so that's really interesting, I think. All right, so next thing we want to do is look at the mod info page, like we had done last week, and I want to remind everybody how how the premiums are calculated, and we can go to here's understanding workers' compensation premium. This is from Nationwide. I just Googled it, accept those things, and in here it breaks it down. It's a complex equation how it's done. So the mod rate is based on your experience. All right, the premium is based on a class code multiplied by payroll divided by 100. So here they've got some class code ratings. So say you had a rating of 6.59 and a payroll of 500,000, you would take 6.59 multiplied by 500,000 divided by 100, and that would be the class code's contribution to that premium. So that's how it's calculated. Here's 3.85, so it's a smaller quantity because it's got a lower rate. If it has a higher payroll, usually you see lower rates. So that's how it's typically calculated. Now, I believe we can also go to the Wisconsin Compensation Rating Bureau, and there are different types of manuals and information we can use. Let's see here. We already looked up some class codes. Let's see. I wonder if there's any information under employers that would be of interest to us. Adjustment premium program. Not really seeing it. Premium credit application. What is that? Employer explanation of the experience rating system. So here's some information about work comp. And I think it's just going to focus on the EMR because that's really what we're attempting to control, unless we find a way to control the actual payroll. So we're given a base premium amount. I didn't really see anything there I liked. Let's see what happens when we go view all forms. Really thought that there was under manuals. Experience. Okay, here's the basic manual for work comp. I did want you guys to kind of refer to this. when you're writing your introduction, for those of you that are going to do it. Just kind of gives you a nice overview. Let's see, is there anything over here premium-wise? Or basis for premium remuneration. Okay, so here they talk about it. And we can look up our codes. And I'm going to show you something that I just can't make heads nor tails of. Estimated payrolls. So each year there is a base premium calculated based on the estimation of payroll and multiplied by whatever that rate might be for the class codes. And I had asked for some payroll numbers, but what I found is it was actually given to us. And so let me bring up this. Okay. Zoom in a little bit. So this is the info, the info tab. So this is the experience rate calculation for the policy year of 23, which is September 1st of 23 through August 31st of 24. So there's all these different calculations. There's a weight number. There's experienced excess losses, or maybe expected excess losses, expected primary losses, actual excess losses, a ballast, which is kind of a buoyancy term, actual incurred losses, and then actual primary losses. So this is these are sort of added up over 3 years. This is 3 years of information put together. And then there's this actual versus expected. And it's the difference between the two that really gives you your mod number. So there's primary. The stabilizing value includes, I think, the ballast. Yeah. What it does is it tries to reduce the impact of a really expensive claim or really expensive claims, which, I mean, that's the outliers. But we handled it differently. There's rateable excess, and then there's the totals. And you want this number to be lower than this number, and we did. And so that's how we were able to get the... Doesn't it have it on here? I thought it did. I thought we had the 0.92 on this page. But I'm not seeing it. And maybe you're seeing it. I'm just blind. Okay. So here's one of the years that are going into the calculation. This is 2019's year. And so what's interesting is we have the subject premium here. So this is what the company paid for $33 million worth of coverage. This is the total actual incurred losses. Here's the premium. And then so here's a breakdown by class code. I don't know what this ELR is. I don't know what this D ratio is, but here's the payroll. So you see the 8810 has got the highest payroll. Second to that is 3076. So they are contributing the most to the premium. Let's take a look at, no, not that one, because we're looking at it already. So here's my document. If we go back to our class code analysis, where is it? By class code outliers removed. Here's the class codes, and here are the rates over time. And so the two biggest ones are 8810. This is the biggest one, but look, it's also the smallest number. So I put in the payroll for 2021 because that's the most recent year that went into it. So it's 2019, 2020, 2021. So 3 years, not including the previous year or the current year. So the year that isn't included is September 1st, 2022 through basically August 31st of this year. So that year is completely eliminated. And then we've got, some other data too. But so it's the payroll of 21 to 22. 22 is not included. 23, we're in the middle of it. And so you can see here's the payrolls, here are the rates. And I try to come up with some numbers, but to be honest with you, they just don't work out. There's some other stuff going on, but that's how the base premium is calculated. Class code times by payroll divided by 100. You get a number, you add all those up, and then that should be your base premium. But again, I couldn't get it to work. There's other stuff going on in there. And then your adjusted premium, or that of which you're actually charged, is the base times EMR. So having an EMR lower than 1, like it's 0.92 for this year, we have an 8% discount on what our base is. And when we look back at, look at in 2019, it was 600,000. In 2020, it was 800,000. 2021, it was 979,000. So I'm thinking it's over $1 million now. But also down here, it talks about the mod impact. The lowest it can go is 0.45. So, and that's if we were to get all 3 years 0 losses, we'd still have to pay 0.45, which is in essence the overhead. That's the overhead they're charging. So on $1 million, they're getting 450,000, and then it's the other 550,000 is earmarked to be paid out. But if we go above that, then they're going to charge us more. So they're always going to make money no matter what. Shows here kind of a comparison within the industry, but you can see here. So here's the 18-19 all the way through, but this is calendar year, which is really weird. It's supposed to be, I'm sorry, it's December through November, whereas we really operate on September 1st. So this is a little bit off. Maybe that's why the numbers are a little bit off. But see, they expected to keep going up, but it came back down in this year. And that's why I think it's down to 0.92. So if we can continue that trend of going down, and you can see the loss amount, it's between 250 and 300,000. What did we just calculate it to be? I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to go back to my results. Results. So company-wide, with outliers included, expected loss would be about just under 300,000 in 2023. That's including the outliers. We went conservative with our estimate, so about 300,000. Let's go back. So yeah, we're trying to keep it down here. Yeah, we're trying to keep this trend going. It's probably a little bit higher than what it was here, but by doing what we're asking to do, we think that we can bring it down in 2023 by correcting the noted priorities. I haven't been able to really understand this stuff as well. It just doesn't help me at all. I wish there was more of a, invest how much money in order to actually receive these savings. But their analyses are very broad, almost descriptive, whereas what we did is we pinpointed things. But what I want you to realize is that the payroll went up substantially over the years. So the more you pay your worker, especially if they're a high risk rate or high class code rate, that's going to increase your premiums. Because if they're going to receive the benefit of wages, which is an indemnified claim, it's going to cost. There's going to be more paid out, and therefore they want to know what the payroll is as an estimation. So that makes it go up. The company's going to have a discussion, I believe, in January about this, and I'm going to try to understand these numbers as much as I can, so I can go in and let them know that. What's our biggest contribution to the premiums? And obviously, just if I did a percent of what this is compared to everything else, it's over half, well over half, maybe 2/3. So 2/3 of their premium appear to be coming from class code 3076. What do we know about class code 3076, children? Well, four of our priorities are from 3076. Haha. So know that it's not a dollar for dollar savings. Any dollars we go down are meant to impact the EMR in a couple years, basically. So next year's calculation will include the 2022. It was an okay year. but then 2023 will roll in the year after that. And if we can reduce it by, say, just 5%, 5% of over $1 million, that's pretty good. And that's a lot more than what we're asking for here. But I'm not asking you to get that sophisticated. I just want you to think about it and realize that when we're talking about savings and ROI, it's not really a valid argument, but it's one that people can relate to. And but so it's actually much greater, especially when you consider that we're paying a minimum 45% of the premium is going to be saved by by the carrier. So any dollars, we can get it below what is expected, get the actual to be below the expected. It basically helps us out. And then it also, a really good year helps us out for 3 full years of that calculation. But hopefully we continue reducing by tracking how we're doing things, investing where we should be investing. So again, it's a modest, very modest ask for what we could do to possibly impact, where the company is expected to pay more in comp claims. And that's what this is all about. I hope this was helpful a little bit. I do encourage, everybody to spend a little bit of time just trying to make sense of these, premium and EMR calculations. It gets a little bit in the weeds. I'll say that. And this equation is pretty wild. I understand why it needs to be wild, because it's like, well, we can show you that you guys are doing a better job and it's saving you some money, though we're still keeping 45% minimum of that money. And again, I don't think these are helping much. Whereas what we have really pinpoints, and it's conservative, but we're actually addressing, a decent amount of what the overall would have been. But we know based on site who to go talk to and what to talk about. Manual material handling, it's half of the 6. Cut, puncture, scrape, basically a third of the 6. And then we got repetitive motion in here too. And that's unique to that class code as well. Is 1379 an expensive class rate? I wonder. Class code 79. No, it's not. Nope. This is where a majority of our premiums coming from. It's not the biggest payroll, 8010 is, but they have the lowest rate. So their contribution, again, is about 1/10 of what this is. And you can see it's over half. So this 3076 class code is contributing to more than half of our premiums, base premiums. And in fact, it appears they're the ones that are most impacting our EMR as well. I hope that this little, walk through the park and kind of thinking about things helps you out. I just want to make sure that you kind of understand it a little bit more in depth than what we're trying to do here. We're really trying to educate management on how the program's performing based on the work comp data, but that our analyses have been able to pinpoint 6 priorities that we'd like to focus on, where we're asking for this much money. And here's the itemized breakdown of where we think the money would go, best use of it, but realizing that this is a very small chunk of what's going on here, and we have a great opportunity. It's an amazing opportunity to reduce the number of claims and the severity of claims, which will in turn lower the EMR calculation in a couple of years. And those savings are substantial. Every 10% it goes down is over $100,000. A half, so 5%, just a modest 5% reduction is 50,000 plus savings. And so right there, and that's per year. If you keep doing it more, it would double. So that's what we're looking at, everybody. Let me know if you have any questions. I think I've got one more video coming up, which I'm going to talk about how I'm going to put together my report.